Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current, cultural, and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello. All right. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time, and we try really hard to be respectful of your time, making sure that you get content that is helpful, useful, and will remain that way for months, maybe even years to come. Today, we are going to do part 4. You'll notice I do not have the background. I've been getting some feedback about some things, and I take feedback seriously. So if you have feedback for me, let me know. Obviously, I process feedback just like I teach. I process the feedback. When feedback fits, I attempt to apply it and make things better. And so some people were saying maybe I should test some things out because I have a good camera, and they were saying maybe you should test out without the backdrop and give us an opportunity to see if it changes the way in which it feels for us. So I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm good. If anything makes the content easier for you to take in, to process, to benefit from, I want to try to make sure that I'm helpful. That's really, at the end of the day, that's the goal. So today we're going to do episode 4, part 4, whatever you want to call it, number 4 of this series that I've been doing about residential programming for teens, because there's a lot of bad press out there, and some of it rightfully earned, some of it unjustly portrayed. And there's this space where, we just got to address it. I cannot sit on the sidelines and not address it. I spent a good chunk of time in the environment. I understand it often for its good and its not so good components. I definitely have an understanding. As many of you know, there are programs out there where kids were harmed. I do not believe, based on my personal experience, that I was part of anything that had intentionally or even unintentionally harmed children. I do know that some kids did not benefit greatly. I'm very aware of that. And in some cases, the way in which kids came to some of the programs I've been part of was harmful to them. Of course, I would never, based if you followed my last podcast, I would never recommend transportation services unless it was the absolute last choice that you had. And even that, I detailed out what that should look like should it have to happen. Today, the tip of the day is always, should you be in a position, now here, let me caveat here for a second. If you are in a position where you are looking at doing a residential program of any kind, you are already in a tough spot. And to do the work that I'm going to outline here is what should a residential program look like. To really consider this when you're already in that really hard spot, it's not the best time to be looking at it. So I hope that and pray that most of you, if you're listening to this, you are not in that crisis state yet. And for those of you who have been through programs and all that stuff, I'm hoping that some of this will hit home and make you go like, wow, if some of those things were part of, then maybe I wouldn't have had the experience that I had, much like I talked about the transportation. With that said, as a background, tip of the day is always pick the person over the program. And by the person, I am talking about their therapist. I'm talking about their staff. I'm talking about their owner, the administrators. Pick the people over the program. The best people you can get are always going to do the best job for you. Period. That's it. Pick the person over the program. And when in doubt, the people that are going to know your child most intimately are the ones who have to be the best, like the top of the line. Okay, don't screw around with this part. Pick the people over the program. All right. How do you do that? Well, let me tell you some things to look at the program level that to me are non-negotiables. First and foremost, the program has got to have a relational approach, meaning they should be emphasizing the bonds between the staff and the students, the students and the students, the students and the staff and the staff. Because remember, I talked about this in the previous one. Harm comes from any direction. Wherever there is a weak link is where harm is going to come from. And look, your family, your child, it's already going through enough. Been there, seen that, done that. I understand that. And I'm telling you, weak relationships, a weak relational program, terrible, terrible for you. So relational, if possible, this is just my own personal take, not a requirement, but if possible, a Christ-centered approach, because it should emphasize relationship with God, relationship with people, relationship. That being said, I also strongly believe that if it is a Christ-centered approach, that there would be no pressure to convert whatsoever. Should they attend church if it's a Christ-centered approach? Sure. Because there should be no pressure by a church to convert them. A person's walk is a person's walk, but exposure to good, healthy relationships is really valuable in life. And and don't get me wrong, I'm very aware of spiritual abuse. I've done podcasts on spiritual abuse in the past. I am very aware that in many churches, there is pressure to convert. In many churches, there is an us and them mentality. I'm not talking about that. Vet the crud out of a church if they're Christ-centered too. Who is their home church? Who is their liaison to the church? All of that stuff too. Okay. But non-negotiable, it's got to be a relationally based program, period. Okay. Number two, if they don't have a mentor program built into it, meaning that there are people coming onto the campus or you're going off of the campus routinely to connect with everyday, ordinary people who care about things, that to me is a red flag. You should have a part of the program that is mentor based. Now, ideally, I would even suggest a mentor based program that will connect your kid back into your community. So a mentor in your home environment, not your house. I'm not talking about mom or dad or brother or sister. I'm talking about preferably an adult outside the home, but within your home community, a teacher, a coach, family friend that can keep confidence so that your kid has somebody to connect to that isn't going to run to mom and dad and say, hey, mom and dad, guess what? Your kid told me this. What do you think about that? Shouldn't be like that. So mentors understand confidentiality. I know these are big asks, folks. I understand what I'm putting out here. This is hard stuff to create, but I'm telling you what a residential program for teens should look like. Now, keep in mind, these aren't going to be perfectly executed. They're run by people. People are flawed. I am flawed. You are flawed. So it's going to be imperfect, but it should be very similar, close to this. All right. Another component is there should be a service orientation component. Strong service orientation component. Here's the reason why. Well, let me give you a couple of reasons why. Number one, it's in terms of program, it means there's more community base to it. That's actually good, so that if a program were a terrible program, they would, because of those community connections, they would start to, to fall apart, which means it wouldn't work. We like it when they're connected to the community because it keeps the program honest. Not perfect, but way more honest. Okay. The second part of this service orientation has to do with you, your family, your kid. If you are considering a residential program, it develops this sheath inside the brain. For those of you who are following along, you're going to see this if you're on Rumble, YouTube, whatever. The midbrain, you can't see my face right now because I'm putting my brain up there. This centerpiece, the hollow part of your hands when they come together, there's a sheath that lines between the left and right hemisphere and the midbrain. And it literally thickens when a person is involved in service to others, altruism. Well, the beauty of that is it creates better emotional regulation. It creates a better sense of belonging in the community, all because there's this little sheath that thickens because we do altruistic behaviors, service to community, giving to others at loss to ourselves. It's a good thing. So that's another reason. All right, another component that we would absolutely expect in a relational model, but I'm just going to highlight it specifically. We would expect to see the staff modeling the expectations. That should be given. So if the kids aren't allowed to have gum, staff should not be chewing gum in front of the kids. It's rude. If the kids are not allowed to have soda, you don't enter a program and see a bunch of staff drinking soda. Now, staff are adults. Can they drink soda? Sure. If the program doesn't allow the students to have it, though, they should never do it in the presence of the students, not because it's a lie, a secret, or deception. It's because it's rude. Model for the kids, period. Okay. I go back for a second and say that one. All right. There should be a consistency with who they say they are. If you go to a school and they say, this is what we're about, and you walk in, and whether that be academic, athletic, therapeutic, experiential, Christian, military structure, whatever, if they say this is what you can expect from us, you ought to be able to walk in and see it everywhere. So if they say it's a Christian program, you ought to be able to see Christian teachings everywhere. Maybe they should be built into the expectations of the program, posted on the walls, whatever. If they say that we're experiential, you ought to be able to see that students have gone to do other kinds of therapy, high ropes courses, low ropes courses, adventure outings into the mountains, equine therapy, rafting stuff, and like it should be experiential. If they say they're about those things, but the last experiential adventure, content that they had in place was like 3 months ago, yeah, that's not experiential, folks. If they say they're experiential year round. Okay. So keep that in mind. It should be consistent with who they say they are. Again, I want to come back to this when it comes to what a residential program should look like. There should be no transporting to the school. Only from the school to home or something like that. It shouldn't be to the school. And in the event that there is an outlier, it's because of something like this. They were transported by their family to, say, like a wilderness program. And then from the wilderness program, it was more cost effective for the family to move them from the wilderness to the program. Okay, something like that, we could entertain, because that's not a traumatic event. Make sense? I hope this is all making sense. Okay. And probably the single most important thing that you should see in any decent residential program is gobs and gobs, lots and lots, magnificent amounts of family involvement with visitation pretty much at a family's will. Not completely, because there are some exceptions, right? Like if the family is, or if the program is doing an entire week-long outing or something like that, the whole program, it's not the time to do a family visit on campus. That would be if your kid is in the right place to take them for the week instead of send them on this outing. Great, do your thing. But there should be so much family involvement between family therapy, where you get to see your kid, talk to your kid, experience your kid, experience your parents, experience like with the therapist, with the staff. There should be so much. Mentors, if they've been vetted, of course, they have to be vetted, right? To be on campus. But if they've been vetted, they should be able to come on campus. Why not? The idea is we're not trying to disconnect a kid from their family. We're trying to keep the kid or reconnect the kid with their family. Does that make sense? I hope you're all tracking. What to look out for if it's too sales-like on the front end. That's a big no-go. They shouldn't be selling you the program. They should be telling you the program. You don't have to sell it. Just tell it. Let it sell itself. Okay. They should tell you their strengths, the things that they're the best at. They should tell you their weaknesses, the things that maybe they're working on them, but they're just not as good, because every program will have strengths and weaknesses. Inconsistencies, right? I went over this a minute ago, but things like we do equine therapy. And then, you find out that they do equine therapy once a year. That's not equine therapy. We do rafting, and you find out that, they go rafting for 6 kids once a year, right? If there's 30 beds or 50 beds in a program, it should be half or more do those kinds of trips at a time, pretty much. All right. So those inconsistencies, cancellations of experiential stuff, cancellations of athletic endeavors, anything like things that get canceled all the time. It's not a good sign. It's a bad sign. Student profile. You should find in the school students that fit similar profiles as your son or daughter, or you, if you're the kid listening to me. If they don't have similar-ish profiles, then that means the school doesn't know who they are. They don't understand their strengths and weaknesses. Now, should it be a perfect across the board? Look, I'll give you an example. A school should not bring in, unless they are specifically a reactive attachment program, and even then I have serious doubts, they should not bring in more than 1 or 2 strongly poorly attached. I said that terribly. All right. Reactive attached kids at a time. Because here's why. Reactive attachment draws reactive attachment. And so what you're going to do is exacerbate the symptoms. If I had a kid who was a reactive attachment kid, that was their struggle, and I was putting them in a program, I would make sure they were 1 of 1 or 1 of 2 in the program. That's it. I would not put them in a program with 3, 4, 5. It gets too chaotic. It's too hard for the staff. It's too hard for the student. It's too hard for the families. Something else to look out for. If I were you and I was looking at programming, staff. Matter of fact, I would go in And yeah, they're going to introduce you to their clinical director, their dean of students, or their whoever's in charge of their students. They're going to introduce you to maybe the owners or the administrative team. They're going to introduce. Here's the thing. Go out there and randomly grab a couple of staff. Talk to them. Talk to them. Talk to a cook. Talk to a their medical their medical staff. Talk to somebody who does medication administration. Talk to a teacher. And I'm not talking about the principal of the school. I'm talking about talk to one of the teachers or two of them. Staff. Because remember, the tip of the day, always pick the person over the program. How are you going to do that if you don't talk to the people? In my opinion, you do those things. If a program has those components that we talked about and they know who they are, and you do those things and making sure it's all about picking the people, then you have a very good chance of picking wisely. And let me tell you, I have worked with a lot of folks in residential treatment, and some of them don't belong there. Some of them do not belong there. And some of them will change your life for the positive forever. Some of them are that good, that impactful, that loving and kind. So, there's a lot of things to talk about here. Here's what I'd like to do. I know people out there have been hurt by residential programs. Please send me questions that you have, concerns that you have, comments that you have. Please do so respectfully. I have been respectful this whole time, all 4 of these episodes. Please do so respectfully. I will address your comments, your questions. I'm on lots of different platforms. Please, if you have questions or concerns, reach out. Let me know. I would like to address them. Give me the chance. There is a place in the world for residential treatment, because there are people who are in crisis and without it cannot do it themselves. And should we have good programs for them to go to? Absolutely. Should we do it in a way that's healthy for them? Absolutely. Do we always? Absolutely not. All right. I've given you some warning signs and stuff that will help you out, but you got to do the work, folks. You got to do the diligence on your end. I'm happy to help, vet pieces for you, with you. Stuff like that, answer your questions, but you got to do the work, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this series was helpful. Also, by the way, give me some feedback. Do you like, this is my office. This is where I work. And so give me some feedback on, do you like this better than the Healthy Perspectives thing that's usually here? Give me some feedback on that. I hope this helps. You have a wonderful day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.